Hello, and welcome. Tonight, I invite you to close your eyes, to relax your body, and to allow your imagination to open wide. We are about to enter a world of possibilities, a world that never was, but could have been. A world in which our night sky shone not with one familiar moon, but with two. Let yourself drift, as if you are sitting under the stars, looking upward, and seeing two orbs of light moving gracefully across the heavens. This story begins as a thought experiment, the kind scientists like to explore, but it carries us much further, into history, into culture, into life itself. What would it mean if Earth had two moons? To explore this question, we must first remind ourselves of the moon that does exist, the single satellite that has been our companion since Earth's earliest days. Our moon was born out of violence. Most scientists believe that long ago, when the Earth was still young, it was struck by a planet-sized body, a collision that threw molten rock into orbit. Over time, gravity pulled this material together, shaping one moon, which we know so well today. But imagine, instead, that the impact had flung debris in such a way that two large bodies formed, rather than one. Imagine that the Earth captured not one moon, but two smaller siblings. From the beginning of our planet's history, twin satellites might have danced in the sky, shaping an entirely different destiny for both Earth and life upon it. The very first and most obvious difference lies in the sky itself. One bright orb is simple, predictable, comforting. But two would paint an entirely different portrait each night. Sometimes they might rise together, glowing like twin lanterns guiding the world asleep. Sometimes one would set as the other rose, ensuring that total darkness was far less common than it is on the Earth we know. Nights may have been brighter, shorter, and filled with softer shadows that came not from a single angle, but from two. Shadows overlapping, stretching, and twisting across the ground in unexpected patterns. Imagine walking across a plain at night, and watching two sets of shadow following you, each turning slightly as the moons shift in the sky. From the earliest times, this doubled sky would shape human imagination and belief. Ancient people, who built entire mythologies around the stars and the single moon, would have found themselves surrounded by even greater mystery. Two moons would inspire dualities, a story of siblings, a story of opposites, a story of competing gods or complementary forces. Cultures might believe one moon was masculine, the other feminine. One representing chaos, the other order. One the bringer of storms, the other the giver of calm. From Babylon to Egypt, from Greece to the Mayans, myths under two moons would be richer, stranger, and sometimes filled with tension, because humanity would see the heavens not as orderly, but as a place of shifting, unpredictable patterns. But it would not only be stories that changed. The very physics of our world would be altered by two spheres of gravitational pull. Right now, our moon commands the tides of Earth, pulling ocean water into vast rhythms that govern every shoreline on the planet. These tides gave life its first pulse, helping early creatures evolve with regular cycles. But with two moons pulling in different directions, the tides would become chaotic. At times, the two gravitational pulls might align, creating tides of unimaginable scale, flooding shores, reshaping rivers and deltas, perhaps even making coastal living far more dangerous than it is in our world. At other times, when the moons pulled in opposite directions, they might cancel each other, leading to unusually calm, even stagnant, waters. For early life, this unpredictable tidal world might have meant a harsher, more challenging path to evolution. Even for the climate itself, the change would be dramatic. Our single moon held steady Earth's axial tilt, which makes our seasons regular and predictable. Without the moon, Earth would wobble drastically, possibly making stable climate impossible. But with two, the story grows more complex. Depending on their sizes and distances, two moons could have introduced new wobbles into Earth's motion. Winters and summers might have shifted unpredictably, meaning early humans or any other species would struggle to adapt. Entire civilizations, reliant on agriculture and seasonal cycles, might live under a constant uncertainty. Crops would sometimes flourish and sometimes fail, with no clear explanation to farmers who look to the sky for answers. Under two moons, the heavens would appear not only beautiful, but also strange and unreliable. Now, step back for a moment and imagine yourself as one of those early humans. You live by the sea. You rise in the morning, gather food, and watch the waves. You know already that the ocean is unpredictable, but in this double moon world, it is more than unpredictable, it is dangerous. The tides are higher, flooding sometimes without warning. Fishing becomes harder, coastlines shift faster than villages can adapt. Yet every night you look up, and there are always two moons. You cannot escape their gaze. They are constant companions, and constant mysteries. Your people tell stories about why there are two, and you know, deep down, that these orbs govern your survival, your hunger, your very way of life. Civilizations writing their first records would naturally place emphasis on this dual lunar influence. Imagine the temple carvings in Mesopotamia no longer a crescent shining alone, but two crescents side by side, eternally linked. Imagine the Egyptian priests, not just aligning temples to the sun, but also struggling to map the complex cycles of twin moons, their overlapping phases producing calendars that are far harder to measure. Would months have been longer? Would they have invented different kinds of calendars, one lunar, one solar, and one dual lunar? Time itself might feel different, less reliable, less fixed. Under two moons, the measure of night might have fragmented into cycles few could fully predict, making human concepts of order and stability far more fragile. But beyond human history lies the question of evolution itself. One of the great mysteries of life is how conditions rose that allowed creatures to leave the water, breathe air, and begin the evolutionary march toward humans. Our moon played a role in this, by creating gentle tidal pools that rose and fell. They trapped organisms between water and land, forcing them to adapt across generations. If Earth had two moons with chaotic tides, then those tidal pools might have been stretched and crushed in unpredictable ways. Life might have faced faster, harsher challenges. Perhaps creatures adapted quicker, forced to innovate against an unpredictable world. Or perhaps evolution slowed, stalled by conditions too violent and random to build stability. Entirely different creatures might have ruled the Earth, and humans may never have come to be. For just a moment, imagine a different kind of Earth. Imagine giant creatures evolved to withstand enormous floods, their bodies strong and amphibious, living at the edge of swollen seas. Imagine fish that swim in tidal rivers, their entire life cycle attuned not to one rhythm of the moon, but to two, their spawning triggered by complex alignments of the heavens. In this reality, human beings are not necessarily at the top of the chain. Perhaps we never arise. Or perhaps we emerge much later, under harsher conditions, a tougher, more resourceful species shaped by a doubly unpredictable world. Yet, if we did evolve, our civilizations would take on an entirely altered character. In the world we live in, the moon has inspired art, religion, exploration, even romance. Poets see the single moon as a symbol of loneliness, of beauty, of yearning. Lovers sit under its light. Warriors march by its glow. Farmers read its cycle. With two moons, these cultural textures would be altogether different. Two moons might not symbolize loneliness, but companionship or conflict. Myths might not tell of forbidden love under a single silver disk, but rather of battles or unions between the twin lights. Romance might take its imagery not from singular longing, but from balance, from duality, from constant comparisons between two shining orbs. Now think of science itself. Astronomy, as we know it, was born from the careful observation of a singular moon and the stars. Two moons would have complicated this infant science. Ancient observers trying to track eclipse cycles, shadows, phases, they would find themselves confused, overwhelmed, or perhaps inspired by deeper puzzles. Our grasp of astronomy might have been delayed, slowed by the difficulty of sorting two moving bodies, each tugging at Earth and each changing in brightness. Predictions would often fail. Farmers and kings who relied on astronomers might lose trust in their prognostications. Human knowledge might develop slower. Or, on the other hand, forced to wrestle with harder puzzles, perhaps human science might grow sharper, faster. Astronomers might discover the laws of motion centuries earlier, driven by necessity. If two moons do not orbit at the same distance, new phenomena emerge. One might appear larger, as our moon does today. The other smaller, a half-like companion. A large moon and a smaller moon like a parent and child, orbiting together in a gravitational duet. This, too, would affect mythology and storytelling profoundly. Perhaps humanity would not believe in twin gods, but in parent and child celestial spirits. One a protector, the other a dependent. Or, if the two moons ever collided, shattering into fragments, entire mythologies would be born about cosmic death and rebirth, shaping religions that view the skies as unstable mirrors of human existence. Astronomers note another consequence. If two moons circled Earth, Earth's rotation would be influenced by both. The length of day and night could shift slightly, stretched over time. Nights under two moons might last just a little longer, or shorter, depending on the balance of poles. Seasons, too, could slide out of step. Imagine a world where winter and summer no longer follow reliable schedules, where disasters strike unpredictably, and survival depends upon adaptation, rather than forecast. This would mean humans would become not only agricultural workers, but constant improvisers, never able to trust stability entirely. At this point, we must pause and reflect. Two moons are not simply a question of beauty or strangeness. They are a question of fate. They are about how planets form, how life arises, how civilizations structure themselves around the sky. The night sky is not a simple backdrop, comforting and eternal. It is the framework, the canvas, the constant reminder that everything we experience is shaped by forces far larger than ourselves. When you look at the moon tonight, in our real world, you see a single companion. But remember, our history could have been very different. You might have grown up in a world where, every night, two companions watched you instead. So, as you listen and drift into sleep, carry this vision with you. A vision of nights never truly dark, of tides more restless, of myths more complex, of science slowed or accelerated, of life itself reshaped. 2 moons, 1 Earth, countless possibilities. What if it had been so? What if tonight you opened your eyes to the sky, and there, side by side, your world shone beneath twin moons, drawn by 2 companions into a story never told? In Part 1, we painted the introduction of a world with 2 moons, how the sky would look different, how the tides would change, how cultures and mythologies might have evolved in ways beyond recognition. The doubled sky was not only a vision of beauty. It was a question of how life itself might have unfolded under conditions forever altered. Tonight, as we continue this exploration, we move deeper into the consequences. We ask, how does an Earth with 2 moons change history, change technology, and change the very possibilities of the human story? Let us journey forward, keeping our pace calm, thoughtful, and steady, as though walking slowly along the shore of those turbulent, double-moon tides. The journey begins again with the oceans. For on Earth, the oceans are not background, they are the lungs, the lifeblood, the constant flow of the planet. In our single-moon world, tides rise and fall in steady cycles. Coastal regions may flood or recede, but they do so with enough predictability that life can adapt. Shellfish bury themselves, crabs scurry to follow the waterline, and humans can time their fishing by the clockwork pull of a single celestial companion. With 2 moons, this balance is broken. Imagine 2 tidal waves converging, sometimes stacking upon each other, doubling in height, crashing against coasts with ferocity. At other times, pulling apart, one moon dragging water in one direction while the other cancels its tug, leaving stillness where once there was motion. Such seas could threaten the very concept of seafaring. Our ancestors, in the real history we know, learned to travel across oceans by building ships and trusting the cycles of weather and tide. They calculated departures by phases of the moon and returned with knowledge shaped by lunar predictability. But in a world of 2 moons, perhaps the story would be far more perilous. Early boat builders, attempting to follow shorelines, would face sudden floods sweeping away entire communities. Fishing villages might be destroyed so frequently that humanity hesitated to settle by coasts. Civilizations, instead of being drawn to the sea, might be pushed away from it, choosing inland rivers and lakes over shorelines battered by chaos. Humanity could have been a more land-bound species, its relationship with oceans more fearful, more cautious, and much less ambitious. And yet, paradoxically, where there is danger, there is also opportunity. Floods deposit nutrients into soil, and turbulent tides stir the oceans, driving rich life into shallows. 2 moons might have made estuaries and coastal rivers incredibly fertile. Populations might gather food in excess along these unstable banks, feeding rapidly growing societies. While destruction might return cyclically, abundance might also accelerate human growth, forcing societies to practice resilience. Perhaps our ancestors, rather than avoiding the water, learned to build stronger, more adaptive settlements. Wooden stilt villages that rose above the floodplain. Movable homes that could shift with the shoreline. Advanced engineering that emerged centuries earlier than it did in our world, all because the double moons demanded adaptation. Now, let us turn our gaze upward again. If 2 moons circled Earth, their movements would be complex. One might orbit closer, faster in the sky. The other farther away, drifting more slowly, like a distant guardian. When they aligned, the night would blaze with brightness. When one eclipsed the other, the sky would be filled with haunting shadows, one moon darkening the other, creating celestial events far more dramatic than anything we know. Ancient astronomers under two moons would devote lifetimes to deciphering these strange dances. Their calendars might grow into multi-layered systems, one for the solar year, one for the nearer moon, one for the farther. Their mathematics might advance faster in pursuit of explanation, as they struggled to find order in movements that never quite repeated with the simplicity of a single lunar cycle. It is here that science itself may change. The double-moon sky is not merely a cultural shift, it is a school, a relentless teacher. Faced with unpredictability, humans must sharpen their minds. In Mesopotamia, priests might carve more detailed records. In Greece, philosophers might ask deeper mathematical questions centuries before Euclid. In China, careful tracking of eclipses might lead not only to celestial records but to an understanding of orbital resonance. The rhythm of science may be accelerated, forced forward by moons that granted no patience for confusion. Perhaps Newton's laws would not have waited until the 17th century. Perhaps they would have been glimpsed, in some form, long before. Yet there is also a darker side. Confusion creates fear. When predictions fail, when harvests collapse, when tides overwhelm, humans often look not to science but to superstition. Two moons would mean two sets of omens. If a single moon's eclipse set panic into the hearts of ancient people, imagine what two eclipses might trigger. Imagine one moon turning blood red while the other still shone silver above. Would nations see this as a warning of war, or famine, or divine anger? Would leaders seize upon these illusions to control their people more tightly, declaring themselves interpreters of the dual heavens? The sky, then, might give birth not only to science, but also to tyranny, to fear-driven control, to sacrifices demanded in the name of balance between two unpredictable celestial rulers. Now let us consider time itself. Human beings orient history around light and shadow, day and night, month and year. Our moon gave us the month, a cycle of roughly 29 days, waxing and waning. With two moons, there would be two lunar months, rarely aligned. Imagine a calendar in which one moon's cycle lasts 20 days, while the other's, perhaps farther out, lasts 30. Every night, the phases combine differently. Sometimes one is full, glowing bright. Sometimes both are crescents. Sometimes both nearly gone, plunging the earth into rare darkness. Farmers would try to track both, priests would argue over which mattered most, and civilizations might fight wars not only over territory but over which lunar calendar was true. The very measurement of time might never unify, leaving humanity forever divided into factions of the near-lunar and the far-lunar. There is also the question of romance, more human, more intimate. Think of the poetry of a doubled sky. In our world, the moon is symbol of longing, of separation, of beauty that can be admired but not touched. With two moons, perhaps love poetry would bloom with metaphors of choice. Which lover is like the nearer moon, close and bright, yet passing quickly? Which is like the farther, dimmer moon, patient, watching from distance, eternal in seeming slowness? Artists might sketch landscapes always adorned by twin halos. Buildings may be built with double windows facing upward, their architecture designed not for a single moonrise, but two. Imagine pyramids or temples aligned not just with the solstices, but with the moment when both moons rise together above the horizon, a spectacle that might happen only rarely, and thus hold immense sacred power. Technology, too, would shift. The oceans, with their unpredictable surges, would make navigation by tide less useful. Yet the brighter nights given by two moons might make sailing safer in another way. Ships traveling across open ocean under two moons might find it easier to see distant coasts or to navigate reefs. The dual shadow cast by sails might become a familiar sight. Navigation might rely more heavily on stars, because the moons were unreliable, but the constant presence of two bright bodies might allow longer journeys without firelight. Civilizations born under two moons might have reached the age of exploration earlier, venturing across seas that seemed always lit, always beckoning. Or, conversely, they may have hesitated, afraid of the sudden surges that could strike without warning. Humanity's relationship with the sea, under two moons, remains a paradox, filled with both fear and promise. Now, consider what happens not to humans, but to Earth itself. The physical effects of two moons are profound. Both moons would be constantly tugging at Earth's rotation. Our days might gradually lengthen faster. Our planet might wobble unpredictably. The climate, over millennia, could swing through extremes, ice ages coming more often, heat waves lasting longer. Perhaps deserts would form in places where forests now thrive. Perhaps fertile regions would be swallowed by shifting rains. Human civilizations might be forced to migrate not once in history, but constantly, always chasing stable climates that never seemed permanent. Cities would rise and fall, abandoned to the desert or the flood. Empires would build and collapse faster, their lives shortened by a sky that never offered balance. And yet, once again, opportunity balances chaos. A changing Earth is not only destructive, it is motivational. Human beings are unique in our ability to adapt. In this double moon world, perhaps we would become more adaptable as a species much earlier. Rather than seeking to bend nature to our will, perhaps we would learn earlier the principle of harmony, building lighter, more mobile homes, adapting crops faster, creating technologies to desalinate floodwaters or preserve harvests in times of famine. Disasters might not crush humanity. They might forge us stronger, faster, harder, until by the modern age we are a species truly prepared for any future, forged under a harder sky. We must not forget, too, the subtle influence of light. Our nights would be different. Rare would be the pitch-black sky we know now, the kind that reveals its ocean of stars. Instead, two moons might provide so much light that only the brightest of stars are visible. Human civilizations would live under dimmer starlit skies. Astrology, born of the patterns of stars, might never grow with the same intensity, overshadowed, quite literally, by the twin beacons overhead. Without rich astrology, without heavy dependence on constellations, humanity's mythologies might paint the heavens differently. Less focus on far-off stars as gods or spirits, more on the two companions always present, always dominant, always seeming closer, more intimate. Perhaps instead of thousands of constellations, we would tell thousands of stories about the moons. The stars would be background, mere decoration. But what of the modern world, in such a reality? In our current age, where science and technology dominate, what challenges would twin moons throw at us? Astronomers today track solar eclipses, lunar cycles, orbital resonances. With two moons, the space age itself would be different. we might launch satellites into far more complicated orbital fields. One moon already threatens satellites with gravitational influence. Two would demand an entirely different engineering, more cautious, more complex, and possibly slower to advance. Alternatively, two moons might offer two staging grounds for exploration. Humanity may already have built bases upon both moons, using them as twin gateways into the solar system. Our steps toward Mars may have been taken much earlier, propelled by a fierce competition of exploration between those who claim the near moon and those who claim the far. Another fascinating path is the psychological. What is it like to live always watched by two glowing eyes in the sky? Does humanity feel more comforted, less alone under the doubled gaze? Or do we feel more haunted, more pressured, unable to escape the reminder of powers that govern both seas and seasons? Entire philosophies might have grown out of this psychological tension. Instead of monotheistic religions, perhaps dualistic religions would dominate, always two opposing spirits, one forgiving, one punishing. Instead of yin and yang arising in the East, perhaps twin moon philosophies of balance and struggle would arise everywhere, shaping how we view morality, nature, even our own place in the cosmos. Let us reflect now on cosmological possibility. Two moons orbiting Earth may not last forever. Tidal interactions could one day destabilize the system. One moon might spiral inward, shattering against Earth in a catastrophic impact. The other might drift outward, leaving the sky entirely. Humanity, living under such a system, would inherit not eternal twins, but temporary guardians. Imagine the myths born when one disappears, societies collapsing in grief, believing the gods themselves have abandoned them. Imagine the wars fought over explaining why only one moon remains. For in the end, two moons on Earth is not only a story of what might have been, but a story of change, impermanence, and the cruel or beautiful ways the cosmos writes its chapters. Part 2 took us on a journey through oceans and tides, myth and science, imagination and history. We saw how life itself, both animal and human, would have been reshaped under the rule of two moons. But the story of two moons is not only about the ancient world. To truly follow this path, we must push further into every age of humanity, from the first civilizations to the modern world and even beyond into the far future. What would our religions have become under two moons? How would our technologies have advanced or faltered? And how would our destiny in space be forever changed by the twin satellites above our heads? Let us begin with the ancient world. In the world you know, the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China grew along fertile rivers. They watched the skies, aligning temples with the heavens, using the movement of the moon and stars to mark time, planting harvests according to celestial rhythms. Under two moons, this act of watching would have been far more complicated, perhaps frustrating. Priests would struggle to predict events with confidence. Festivals depending on lunar calendars might fall out of rhythm, creating confusion within religious ritual. Imagine a Mesopotamian king demanding a ritual offering at the new moon only to be told, "Great Lord, the nearer moon is new, but the farther moon is waxing." Which was correct? Which was sacred? These questions could fracture belief systems entirely. Wars might not be fought primarily over land or water, but over interpretation of the sky itself. And yet, complexity can be a source of creativity. Think of Egypt. Their pyramids and temples aligned not only with the sun but with stars such as Sirius and Orion's belt. 2 moons would have added new layers of symbolism. Perhaps twin pyramids would have been constructed, each tracking a separate lunar cycle, serving as massive calendars and spiritual centers. Architects and engineers might have developed different systems of measurement, inspired by 2 visible rulers above. Dual symmetry could have become the dominant principle of art and design, influencing everything from jewelry to entire cities built as mirror images to reflect the heavens. Where we know Egyptian culture as filled with single solar disks and lunar crescents, in that world, it would be doubled, 2 disks, 2 crescents, always intertwined. China, with its long history of careful celestial observation, might have reacted differently. Chinese calendars are already complex, balancing lunar and solar mathematics. With 2 moons, their astronomers would have been forced into advanced models very early. Their records might reveal predictions of lunar conjunctions and eclipses centuries before the West developed such astronomy. Dynasties may have claimed their legitimacy not only by aligning themselves with the mandate of heaven, but by claiming mastery of the 2 celestial companions. Imagine an emperor announcing that he, and only he, could guarantee harmony between the near moon and the far moon, using the control of ritual to maintain political power. Myth, science, and politics would blur into one under such a sky. Now consider the Americas. The Mayans and Aztecs already built intricate calendars and mythologies based on the sun, planets, and moon. 2 moons would have given them a cosmic theater more dramatic than anywhere else. Their temples at Chichen Itza or Tenochtitlan might not only track solstices but the double rises and double shadows cast during certain nights. Their myths of cycles and destruction, already rich and complex, would be magnified by the unstable heavens. Perhaps their religion would focus even more on sacrifice to keep the moons in balance, fearing that if one grew angry or jealous, disaster would follow. Their calendars, already astonishingly precise, might surpass even our modern reckoning, crafted in desperate effort to make sense of the chaos overhead. Through all this, one constant emerges: humanity under 2 moons would spend more energy, more thought, and more creativity in responding to them. The heavens would not be serene and comprehensible. They would be chaotic, unstable, and commanding. From this fact alone, the trajectory of knowledge alters. Whether through superstition or science, humans would never rest in their obsession with those 2 companions. But let us move further forward, into the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Enlightenment. In our real history, Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler, and Newton showed us how planets move, how gravity binds the cosmos, how the Earth itself orbits the Sun rather than standing at its center. In a world of 2 moons, this revolution may have arrived earlier or perhaps much later, stymied by confusion. Galileo, pointing his telescope at the sky, would not only study the craters of 1 moon but 2. His letters might describe not 1 rough sphere, but 2 scarred bodies, each moving with strange elegance. Kepler, obsessed with harmonies of the spheres, would struggle against more complex orbital paths. 2 moons do not follow identical cycles. Resonances, accelerations, and slow drifts would bewilder his data, forcing mathematics to grow more advanced at an earlier stage. Perhaps calculus itself would have been born sooner, because simple geometry was not enough to map the dancing pair above. Newton, too, would not merely watch an apple fall. He would watch the double moon system and wonder, why do they not collide? Why do they not collapse into chaos? His insight into gravity might have deepened, perceiving not only the pull between Earth and one satellite, but between Earth, a near moon, and a far moon, all influencing one another endlessly. The mathematics of gravitation would be richer, more complex, and perhaps even more elegant. From one perspective, the scientific revolution might have accelerated under such pressure. From another, however, we could imagine the opposite. The data might be so confusing, predictions so unreliable, that astronomers throw up their hands for centuries, relying instead on mysticism. Which path is more likely? The answer lies in the temperament of humanity itself, the need for order, and the willingness to fight for it against a sky that seems determined to defy human understanding. When we imagine the Renaissance artists, another thought arises. Look at the paintings of Leonardo da Vinci, the skies filled with delicate shading of mountains and waterfalls. Place 2 moons into his world, and think of the art that might have emerged: paintings of double shadows, sculptures of twin orbs carved into cathedrals, frescoes showing stages of theology not with crosses alone, but always flanked by 2 glowing discs. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling would not be a single sun-moon duality, but a multi-layered cosmic painting with 2 moons highlighting the balance between light and darkness. Even the poetry of Shakespeare might read differently. Instead of the moon as a symbol of madness or longing, he would choose one moon or the other, perhaps writing of the near moon's jealousy or the patient far moon, waiting. Art and science both respond to the heavens, yet it is industry, survival, and war that define power. How would 2 moons affect this? One clear answer lies in timekeeping. Societies depending on precision of days, months, and years would face greater difficulty. In our world, the shift from lunar calendars to solar calendars came out of necessity, as the lunar year did not match the solar one. Under 2 moons, this mismatch doubles. Agricultural societies might fail more often because planting comes at the wrong time. Wars might be timed poorly. Empires might collapse faster due to famine rooted not in soil or weather, but in miscalculation of time under chaotic skies. This alone could slow technological growth by centuries. Or, in reaction, it could demand faster innovation, the invention of precise instruments, the rise of mechanical clocks, the obsession with solar calendars emerging far earlier. Thus humanity again is given a choice: fight chaos with precision, or become lost in endless superstition. It is in this context that the Enlightenment arrives. 2 moons would stand as symbols of paradox. To skeptics and scientists, they would be proof of natural law waiting to be understood. To mystics and theologians, they would be reminders that the universe is not made for comprehension, but for reverence and fear. Under 2 moons, philosophy itself might diverge. Rationalists might speak of the dual moon system as evidence that mathematics rules all. Mystics might argue that the unpredictability shows the hand of gods. The tension between science and religion, already powerful in our history, would grow even sharper, an entire battlefield defined by the doubled sky. Pause now and imagine again. You are a child in an early modern city. It is evening. The lamps in the street glow faintly, and above them, the sky is clear. 2 moons hang there, one larger, close and bright, the other smaller, higher and slower. You ask your parent which moon is more important. They smile sadly, because they do not know. Priests and scholars argue endlessly. Wars have been fought over that very question. But to you, standing in the cool night air, it does not matter. They are simply beautiful, twin lights watching over you. Humanity might always carry that contradiction, fear and awe, confusion and comfort, all wrapped in one doubled sky. As humanity advanced into the modern world, the presence of two moons would no longer be a backdrop of myths and poetry alone. Now it would become a central feature of science, technology, war, and exploration. The Industrial Revolution, the rise of global empires, the birth of electricity, the age of flight, and the space age, all of these would be colored, shaped, and complicated by the doubled sky above. To step into this imagined world is to step into a reality both familiar and alien. The buildings look much the same, the rivers wind across the same continents, people live, love, and struggle as in our own world. But above them, at every hour of every day, the moons are present, two glowing lights pulling oceans and minds, dictating both natural cycles and human ambitions. This difference cascades through everything that follows. We begin with the 19th century, the age of steam and industry. In our real history, great powers grew around coastal ports. London, New York, Bombay, Shanghai centers of trade and technology thrived because the seas around them could be mapped and trusted. With two moons, however, the seas betray that trust. Tides rise higher, storms vary wildly, and floods routinely devastate ports. The maritime empires of Britain, Spain, Portugal, or the Netherlands might never reach the same heights in this alternate Earth. Instead, inland empires Russia, Austria, inland China, and North American heartlands would dominate. Not because their coasts were strong, but because they were less vulnerable to the angry seas of a twin moon world. This does not mean, however, that the oceans become irrelevant. On the contrary, they become even more essential and more dangerous. The abundance found in estuaries and coasts would drive populations to test their limits. Fish harvests boom, then collapse. Coastal farmland is both rich and unstable. Human effort is consumed with the battle against water, building stronger levees, inventing better floodgates, engineering canals that resist unpredictable surges. Civil engineering, in this timeline, becomes the central science of the 19th century. Where our ancestors obsessed with steam and steel, these ancestors obsess with foundations, hydrodynamics, and the shaping of terrain. Their world is a woven net of dams, pumps, elevated villages, and retractable harbors, all demanded by the chaos of the twin tides. The cultural shifts are no less dramatic. We know the Romantic poets loved the moon for its solitude, its mystery, its soothing glow. In the twin moon Earth, their poems cannot rely on the same metaphors. Instead of loneliness, the heavens symbolize relationship. Two moons represent love or rivalry, closeness or distance, loyalty or betrayal. Painters fill their canvases with double shadows stretching from trees, with reflections of twin moons rippling across rivers. Architecture evolves too, cathedrals built with twin spires pointing to the heavens, bridges resembling arcs of dual curves, theaters lit by ovals designed to mimic the double skies. The influence is everywhere, so pervasive that people scarcely question it. The two moons are a grammar of their own, an eternal language written in silver upon the night. But to scientists, the moons are not symbols. They are problems to be solved. Astronomers of the 19th century devote vast effort to understanding orbital mechanics. The three-body problem, Earth tugging on two satellites, is not a piece of abstract mathematics but a pressing daily question. Farmers need tidal predictions, governments demand flood warnings, and navies require accurate maps of coastal change. Out of this necessity, calculation grows. Mechanical devices are built early to compute orbits, gears and wheels grinding out tables of dual alignments. By the 1850s, what in our world would have been only primitive calculating machines now become an entire industry of lunar computation. Small observatories double as computation centers, churning out data to guide harbors and protect lives. In some sense, the technological revolution in information processing arrives decades earlier here than it did in our own timeline. This is the world's first hint of the computer age, born not from commerce or military, but from the moons themselves. Yet the story evolves further. The age of electricity dawns, and with it, global change. In our history, electricity was partly driven by a desire to banish the night. Cities wanted brightness, safety, and productivity after sundown. Gaslight gave way to electric bulbs. But in the world of two moons, nights were rarely fully dark. Even when one moon waned, the other might remain bright. Street vendors could work later. Farmers could plow by silver light. Lovers could walk beneath glowing skies almost as well as under lamps. The pressure to electrify the world would be less desperate. Electricity would arrive, yes, but slower, more cautiously, valued more for its mechanical power than its ability to provide light. The very rhythm of the industrial century might be dragged out, its pace softened under silver skies. In the First World Wars, two moons again changed the field. Reconnaissance planes and bombers operate under skies so bright that hiding in darkness is often impossible. Soldiers march at night with fewer torches, but also less cover. Camouflage is harder. Generals adapt, strategies change, but stories in diaries repeat the same realization: the heavens are not neutral. The twin moons judge all equally, shining on ally and enemy alike. They remind the world that no war is fought in secrecy, that above the battlefield two steady companions always watch. From war, we move to space. In our reality, 1969 was electrified by a single thought: humanity has walked on the moon. But in this world, the question was never so simple. There are two. Which one is claimed first? Arguments rage in scientific circles. Is the nearer moon, larger and brighter, the natural target? Or should the farther moon, untouched and more mysterious, hold humanity's first steps? The Cold War divides itself not merely between Earth's superpowers, but between twin lunar ambitions. The United States plants its flag on one. The Soviet Union scrambles to reach the other. Humanity's entry into space splits from the very beginning, not unified by a single triumph, but forever dual, forever contested. Even today, monuments on Earth point upward with different loyalties, one honoring the near moon, one honoring the far. And beyond exploration comes the future. For moons are not eternal fixtures. Their orbits change, slowly, inevitably. In a twin moon system, that change is unstable, unpredictable. Astronomers of the 21st century publish warnings: one day, the nearer moon will fall inward, torn apart by Earth's gravity. The debris will form a brilliant ring in our skies, a spectacle lasting lifetimes, before re-entering as fiery storms. Meanwhile, the farther moon may slip slowly outward, escaping Earth to wander alone around the Sun. The twin night that defined all of history will not last. Humanity would live each night with that knowledge: permanence is an illusion. The heavens are fragile, even the companions we trusted forever. And so part 4 closes upon a paradox. In this alternate Earth, humanity is both accelerated and restrained. Technology runs ahead where necessity drives it, yet slows where light removes need. Cultures are richer, myths more layered, philosophies sharpened. Wars are bloodier under bright skies, but also shaped by the awareness of being watched by 2 eternal witnesses. Humanity, under twin moons, never forgets duality of chaos and order, of beauty and danger, of closeness and loss. The story of our world, rewritten by the presence of 2 lights above. Look upward now, in your imagination. See them there together, one full and blazing, the other smaller but steady, their silver radiance washing Earth every night. This is the destiny of a 2-moon Earth. Complex, unstable, demanding, yet also magnificent, a sky of such beauty that no human could ever stand beneath it and feel entirely alone. In the 20th century, science and philosophy faced the doubled sky in ways far more profound than in all centuries before. Telescopes improved, rockets were invented, radio connected the globe, and suddenly the idea of escape to the moons themselves was no longer fantasy. If humanity had lived for millennia under twin companions, then space exploration was not only about curiosity, it was destiny. Nations debated not if they should go, but which of the 2 targets was the rightful first step. The Cold War may not simply have been an arms race and a race into orbit, but a dual expansion, the United States aiming at the near moon, the Soviet Union declaring loyalty to the far moon. Each side pours resources not into a single Apollo program, but into competing missions. Engineers face harder calculations, 2 sets of gravitational wells, orbital mechanics defined not only by Earth and 1 satellite, but Earth and 2. Yet these challenges inspire ever greater advances in mathematics, propulsion, and tracking technology. Computers in this world are pushed rapidly forward, demanded by the complexities of the dual lunar environment. Culturally, the space age under 2 moons is a divided triumph. Children in America dream of astronauts planting flags on their claimed moon. Schools teach their loyalty not just to nation but to their celestial neighbor. In the Soviet Union, posters depict the far moon glowing red in solidarity with revolution. Planetariums across Europe stage shows about alignment when the twin orbs shine together, but the pride of politics rarely allows them to be seen as siblings. They are rivals, just as the nations below are rivals. Humanity's natural desire is to project itself upward, into whichever moon they claim to own. And yet, beneath the rivalry lies awe. For the first time, humans stand upon alien ground and look upward not at one Earthrise, but at an Earthrise lit also by the second moon beyond. Photographs taken from space stations capture a surreal sight, Earth in the distance, twin moons circling her, immortalized in frames that humanity will treasure for centuries. But 2 moons do not only inspire exploration. They provoke anxiety. Astronomers of the late 20th century realized that such a system may not be stable forever. The larger, nearer moon, under constant tidal interactions, is drawing subtly closer. The smaller, lighter moon drifts outward. Models predict that in tens or hundreds of millions of years, the nearer moon could break apart, while the farther will leave Earth completely. Governments, hearing whispers of this research, begin funding long-term planetary defense strategies far earlier than we did in reality. Discussions emerge: can we use rockets to gently push one moon into a stable orbit? Should we colonize one quickly, to survive if the other catastrophically collapses? For the first time in human history, the fragility of the sky is visible not in myth but in mathematics. And the double moons turn from companions into warnings. At the same time, modern psychology changes. Under two moons, the human mind interprets light and shadows differently. Nights are rarely dark, dreams form under different conditions. Studies show that circadian rhythms adjust to subtle cycles of brightness, sometimes leading to disrupted sleep. In this world, insomnia, restless thought, or dual-cycle sleep patterns may be more common. Doctors in the 20th and 21st centuries research two-moon syndrome, a condition in which humans subconsciously tune into the alternating cycles of brightness from two moons and find their mood shifting accordingly. One moon dominates some personalities, another moon dominates others. The culture of astrology, surviving long past its decline in our own world, blends with psychology. Employers might even check an applicant's dual lunar horoscope, reading whether they are near-moon thinkers passionate, quick, fiery, or far-moon thinkers patient, methodical, distant. While true science rejects such determinism, the cultural hold remains powerful. Twin moons create not one myth but two, and the human mind thrives on patterns. As the 21st century advances, technology reshapes the meaning of the twin moons. Satellites orbit Earth in complex patterns, forced to weave carefully between lunar gravitational fields. Global positioning systems, which in our real world rely on simple trajectories, here require far more satellites and more sophisticated programming to prevent errors introduced by dual lunar pools. Engineers marvel and curse, the moons inspire innovation, but they also endlessly complicate every calculation. Space travel becomes not only about leaving Earth but about navigating a constantly shifting orbital theater. Launch windows to Mars or Venus depend not only on Earth's orbit but on the positions of two shifting companions. Missions are delayed, costs rise, but in turn humanity invents incredible new precision technologies. Supercomputers, artificial intelligence for orbital prediction, and entire schools of three-body mechanics flourish. The human drive to cope with the skies accelerates digital technology, perhaps bringing computers, AI, and satellite infrastructure a generation earlier than our own timeline. In this sense, the inconvenience of two moons produces an advantage, necessity breeds invention. Yet society itself grows more reflective beneath dual skies. Works of literature and philosophy in the late modern world explore not the loneliness of existence but its duality. Writers meditate on choice, balance, contradiction. Films and novels are filled with imagery of twin moons as metaphors for love, war, partnership, betrayal. If our world obsesses with the binary of sun and moon, this world obsesses with the trinity, Earth, near moon, far moon. Individuals wrestle with questions of dual identity. Which moon are you beneath? Becomes a common poetic phrase in this world, just as born under a certain star shapes ours. Spiritual systems adapt too. Monotheisms evolve differently, emphasizing unity even more strongly to compensate for the constant reminder of duality in the heavens. Churches preach the oneness of God against the temptation of a divided sky. Philosophers, by contrast, embrace the dual, writing of the necessity of conflict and harmony that arises whenever two are bound in orbit around one. The environmental consequences continue as well. Rising sea levels, in our real age, are due to climate change. Yet in a world of two moons, tidal forces exacerbate the problem. Coastal megacities are built with immense barriers gates higher and stronger than anything we know. Nations spend fortunes simply defending their harbors. Governments fall not over taxes or corruption but over failure to manage a flood. Environmentalists demand retreat from the coast entirely, while engineers argue for grand projects of dams, pumps, and moving cities. Humanity becomes, more than ever, a species of water management. The oceans are still our resource, but in this world they are also our eternal adversary. Our greatest monuments are not skyscrapers or digital networks but tidal walls stretching for miles, holding back moons that will never rest. Now look further into the distant future of this twin moon Earth. We know from orbital mechanics that the tides slow Earth's rotation over eons. In a two-moon world, this effect multiplies. Days grow longer, centuries accumulate minutes, then hours, until perhaps 1 billion years from now Earth turns so slowly that nights last weeks and days last weeks. Life as we know it struggles. Plants adapt in strange ways, some evolving to store more energy for lengthier nights. Humans, if they survive, create vast artificial daylight systems. Sleep cycles fracture. Civilization itself warps to accommodate days measured not in hours but in weeks. But even more dramatic is the destiny of the moons themselves. Astronomers of this future publish with certainty the nearer moon is doomed. Its orbit decays as tidal forces bleed away its momentum. One day, perhaps 2 billion years hence, it will fall inward. Before impact, it tears apart across the Roche limit, spraying Earth with a new ring system. The sight is dazzling, arcs of silver stretching across the sky, brighter than Saturn's greatest bands. Future peoples will live under a new celestial wonder, a ringed Earth glowing in spectacles each dawn and dusk. Yet beauty soon turns to danger, as fragments rain downward, burning in skies, striking oceans, raising devastation. Humanity or its descendants will struggle to survive. Meanwhile, the father moon drifts ever outward, until Earth can no longer claim it. One night, it hangs low. The next, it retreats beyond gravitational grasp, circling the sun instead. Then it is gone. Earth, for the first time in billions of years, is reduced to one moon or perhaps none. What would people feel in that far-off age? Generations raised for millennia under dual lights would carry a deep trauma of loss. Religions would foresee the end. Poets would lament the desertion of a companion. Philosophy would wrestle with impermanence. And humanity, forged for so long by chaos and duality, might finally understand that all skies are temporary. The twin moons were never permanent gods. They were wanderers, companions for a time, leaving behind in geology, biology, and memory the record of their influence. And so part for completes this chapter of the story. We have walked from the 19th century through the 21st, from the industrial storm of cities and ports, through the cultural agonies of science and superstition, through modern space exploration, and out into distant futures where the very foundation of the sky shifts again. The lesson is clear. Two moons magnify everything: our fears, our triumphs, our myths, our technologies. They complicate, they endanger, they inspire. Humanity on this earth is sharper, faster, more resilient, but also more divided, more fearful, more restless. Their destiny is not a straight march forward but a dance, chaotic and profound, pulled always by two companions circling overhead. In the story of Earth with two moons, the fifth part must turn to the long scale of the human journey itself, not only the myths, not only the science, not only the wars and technologies, but the deep narrative of life shaped across thousands of years, when every man, woman and child lived their entire existence under the silver gaze of dual companions above the horizon. This part will be long because the story itself is long. The weight of two moons is felt not in single events but in accumulation. Across ages, in the way generations adapt to them, in the way entire civilizations are written and broken and reformed beneath their shifting light. The fifth part carries us through anthropology, psychology, architecture, art, economy, faith, politics, exploration, survival, extinction and legacy. The earliest humans did not understand the mechanics of the sky, but they felt its weight. The hunt began and ended under two moon. Seasons were marked with difficulty. Villages rose and fell near coasts where tides crashed higher than expected. Art was born as paintings of twin circles scratched into cave walls, torchlight flickering against stone as people marked their awe for the two lights. Animal bones carved into crescents, always in pairs. Families told stories of siblings in the sky, of protectors, of monsters, of heralds. The night was never black and terrifying, but always washed in layered glow, shadows from both moons overlapping, twisting, giving humanity both fear and comfort. As millennia passed, humans learned agriculture. The two-moon sky made agriculture difficult. Timing was never simple. Seed planting and harvest were disrupted by erratic tidal influence and subtle climate variance. The result was hardship, but also innovation. Trial and error forced careful record-keeping. Early calendars became more complex than those of our true history. Each civilization developed symbols for near-moon cycles and far-moon cycles. Priests recited overlapping chants, one for each lunar body. Farmers asked which cycle mattered most. Villages fought wars over which calendar was stronger. Temples rose with dual alignment, stone pillars built in pairs so that alignments could mark both celestial bodies. Leaders claimed divine favor not from one heaven but from two, always two and never one. The result was a culture of dual loyalty, dual conflict, dual reverence. As cities grew, the architecture itself mirrored the sky. Temples were crowned with twin towers, city gates mirrored in double arches, artworks filled with dual motifs, pyramids built as duets, cathedrals rising in two ascending lines, symbolic repetition of that eternal view overhead. Painters depicted landscapes with two reflected moons in lakes. Poets wrote of choices between two lights. Kings married queens of the near moon line or the far moon line. Dynasties divided by symbolism of lunar allegiance. Myths tied civil stability to the balance between companions. Philosophers spoke of the principle of two, the idea that reality was never singular, that truth was defined by relationship. Some sought harmony, some sought hierarchy, but no one truly imagined a world of one. Economies were shaped not simply by skyward beauty but by physical consequence. Two moons produced stronger tides, some eras fertile, some destructive. Ports collapsed, coasts shifted, great powers rose inland, industries dominated the mining of highlands, the building of river dams, the engineering of inland stability, all to counter lunar chaos. Trade routes climbed farther from sea, trade turned to caravan networks across deserts and mountains. Global history unfolded on different terrains than ours. Because the oceans were less predictable and the coasts less safe, engineers became central to power. Rulers glorified not warriors but builders. Those who tamed the water earned divine association. Those who understood the rhythms of two moons became oracles. Anthropology reveals another shift. Humans carry evolutionary imprint from the sky. Two moons created longer, brighter nights. Families spent more time active after sunset. Predators changed their hunting. Humans changed their defense strategies. Fire served less as protection against darkness, since darkness was rare. Instead, fire was ritual. Humans evolved with sleep patterns broken by dual cycles. Circadian rhythms shifted. Some people adapted to near-moon cycle, others to far-moon cycle. Human biology Split invisibly, personalities aligned to lunar phases in ways subtle but persistent. Scientists of later centuries measured hormone fluctuations tied not only to solar circadian cycles but to complex overlay of two lunar rhythms. Humanity itself became dual in hidden physiology. Art mirrored this psychology. Religions debated it, but in truth it was biology shaped by the twin watchful eyes. Faith remained central in all ages. Two moons inspired dual deities, religions of twin gods, mother and daughter, father and son, lovers, rivals, enemies, protectors. Every mythology absorbed the presence of more than one lunar entity. Monotheistic faith struggled against the imagery but transformed their doctrines to emphasize unity, stronger to fight the sight of division. Dual moons reinforced sectarian tension. Debates over which body carried sacred light triggered crusades, rebellions, schisms. Twin moons became both symbol of eternal duality and test of human yearning for unity. Philosophy came alive in this struggle. Schools of thought argued that reality itself was dual, light and dark, near and far, reason and madness, chaos and order. Dual moons visualized dualism daily, so ideas took deep root. Societies built law codes structured around balancing pairs. Economic systems encouraged trade of dual goods. Social roles mirrored twin archetypes. Humans found meaning in contrast. Every culture interpreted differently, but none could ignore the governing image in the sky, the reminder that existence was never singular. War evolved differently. Strategies changed. Armies under two moons seldom hid darkness. Less reliable night raids, more dangerous. Greater visibility made secrecy rare, but complexity of tides turned coastlines into unpredictable allies or enemies. Naval battles risked sudden surges. Entire fleets lost. Armies learned fear not only of opponent but of sea. Shaped by dual pool, generals checked lunar charts with every campaign. Alliances shifted based on interpretation of omens seen in eclipses. Battles paused at dual lunar alignments. War was defined by sky just as war in our real world was often defined by land. Religion, language, empire. War under two moons was cosmic in tone. The human psyche adapted. Modern psychology studies traced archetypes. Individuals fell into near-moon identities or far-moon identities. Entire myth recorded two kinds of humanity: one impulsive, bright, quick, unstable; one patient, distant, stable, enduring. Such frameworks persisted across centuries, shaping class identity, political parties, cultural movements, stereotypes and prejudices. Internal human division deepened under projection of dual lunar cycles. Science advanced in both slowed and accelerated forms. Mathematics advanced quickly. Three-body problems essential. Astronomy flourished. Physics forced earlier into difficult calculations, but agriculture, commerce and navigation slowed by chaotic tides. Technology had strange timeline. Lighthouses less urgent. Electricity delayed. Computers earlier. Celestial mechanics advanced. Space travel both complicated and motivated. The balance of delay and acceleration created different trajectory but always tied to necessity imposed by the sky. Humanity reshaped step by twin companions. The industrial centuries restructured not simply economics but identity. Bright night slowed the urgency for artificial illumination. Cities grew slower under lampposts but grew faster in mechanical computation. Machines built to calculate orbits prefigured digital revolution. Industrial growth slower in some realms, faster in others. By the 20th century, digital computing deeply integrated. Centuries earlier, humanity approached modernity differently. Society in this world is obsessed with duality. Daily life governed by reminders. Calendars, double clocks track both cycles. Weddings held under alignments of near and far moons. Coronations aligned to eclipses. Architecture, twin spires. Music written in dual themes. Ancient chants echo rhythm of dual waxing and waning. Even modern popular songs reference identity of being between two lights. Every piece of cultural identity is saturated with vision of both moons. There is no art, no poem, no science untouched The 21st century under two moons is world of contradiction, scientific obsession with orbital mechanics produced advanced computers, advanced satellites, advanced predictive models, but environmental struggle consumed budgets, half of civilization wealth spent in flood defense, barriers, towers, pumps, canals, inland migration, wars over dry highlands more devastating than oil wars, cities, abandoned coasts, retreating populations. Endless struggle against seas, poetry, endless reflection on dual love. Art, endless creation of twin reflections, technology both faster and slower than ours, nuclear age-shaped propaganda of twin vigilance, Cold War split into dual races, exploration to both companions, national pride mapped onto orbits. Psychology of billions lives is saturated, parents telling children bedtime stories always involving two siblings in sky, adults identifying personalities in lunar metaphors, politics using dual imagery in campaigns, every election fought in language of alignment and balance, nations branding themselves near moon or far moon, cultures divided into dual but always symbolically united, humanity cannot escape celestial imposition, dual moons, permanent unconscious archetype. Looking far into future, descendants confront truth, stability, temporary nearer moon doomed to spiral collapse, fragments building rings then crashing, far moon drifting inexorably away, religions preparing believers to confront apocalypse, philosophers writing of impermanence, global civilizations planning to colonize planets before lost, trauma of imagined separation shaping millennia of literature, entire civilizations exist under anxiety, nothing permanent, no sky, eternal hope and fear bound in awareness of orbital decay. The legacy of humanity in this two-moon Earth is paradox, strength forged through chaos, weakness born from division, knowledge accelerated by necessity, superstition prolonged by complexity, art richer, culture more fragmented, destiny different path, not linear path, always oscillating, always pendulum, human story itself rewritten by constant gaze overhead. And so Part 5 closes as a meditation on the human story itself, not abstractions, not only physical changes but the deep marrow of life, identity, culture, mind shaped by silver companions. Humans became dual because their sky was dual, every generation, every age, every empire under gaze of twin moons, Earth, humanity and destiny rewritten. In the great sweep of history, humanity always looks upward just as often as it looks inward. The sky is not only a backdrop but a mirror, a canvas shaped by imagination and fear and calculation. The presence of two moons is more than geology, more than orbit. It is a permanent reminder that Earth exists in a cosmic relationship of multiplicity, not singularity. Two moons above Earth transform the entire dialogue between humanity and the universe, philosophy, cosmology, religion, science, psychology and art. All converge under that doubled sky. In this part the story expands vast into meaning, future and destiny until even the limits of imagination strain to contain the weight of two companions. Humanity began by fearing the wilderness, seeking shelter from predators, gathering near fire but always on nights filled by dual light. No human ever looked into darkness empty as we know it. Instead, every generation lived with constant lunar glow, shaping dreams, shaping instincts. The universe looked inhabited by two guardians, no tribe, no culture, no empire separated from this truth. Life was conducted with self-awareness under eyes that seemed alive, two white orbs following across heavens, whispering destiny. Humanity learned very early that it was not alone. The skies seemed crowded, twin companions implied company. Identity was built on the assumption that existence was relationship even before reason. Humanity already projected purpose onto double moons, cosmic companionship implanted deep into psyche. This presence guided philosophy, entire schools of thought, permanent obsession with pairs, symmetry, contradiction, duality, everything described by two poles, war and peace, light and shade, joy and grief, body and soul. Every language developed idioms attached to moons, every tradition flavored by dual imagery, dialogues not about unity versus division but about balance between two dynamic forces. Human philosophy became structure of dual systems. Thinkers debated not solitary truth but relations between two movements ethics defined by reconciliation between two poles history described as pendulum between twin forces even mathematics evolved with dual emphasis binary systems revered geometry celebrated for symmetry numbers personified by connection to moons humanity conceived existence as always between never singular. Religion rose under doubled heavens faith rooted not in abstract unknown but in visible companions above myths blossomed around two siblings two lovers two gods two guardians theologies written in pairs temples built in symmetry rituals dedicated to dual alignment priests recited twin chants every altar carved with dual signs sacred days chosen for rare conjunctions when both full moons shared sky as if gates of heaven opened for prayer in this world monotheism faced stronger challenges yet. Survived by emphasis on transcendent unity above dual-site faiths proclaimed God needed no companions yet always acknowledged image above head religions adapted shaping doctrines to address paradox dual moons created interpretation required deeper metaphors teaching spoke of eternal oneness manifesting through dual reflections divine essence present simultaneously in two forms every century human spirit wrestled with. Division dating back to primal nights of twin glow. The moon's affected cosmology universes imagined as dual worlds infinite realities projected into two people asked are there two earths as there are two moons are there two destinies are there two souls every cosmological myth anchored by sky overhead philosophers imagine parallel realities twin cosmic mirrors for every star there must be another hidden for every planet another shadow the human drive to imagine multiverse seeded stronger because sky itself seemed to hint worlds come in pairs. Universes come in mirrors existence comes in reflections. Art absorbed this obsession every sculpture every painting every theater stage leaned into imagery of duality dancers choreographed in twos music structured in harmonies of opposition artists obsessed with twin light upon landscapes literature dominated by themes of duplication mirroring balance or rivalry entire genres flourished around twins and doubles folk tales repeated same motifs of siblings lovers enemies bound together shadows cast upon ground by two moons always fascinated artists who traced with paint the strange doubled silhouettes every age produce masterpieces defined by twin world never escaping influence overhead. Psychology absorbed dual moons childhood shaped by stories of two guardians fear shaped by eclipses when one shadowed the other delight shaped by rare events when both shone full above horizon parents told myths children internalized symbolism daily people divided their own personalities by lunar metaphor those aligned with near moon described as passionate those aligned with far moon described as patient dreams shaped by phases insomnia normalized. Relationships described through dual frameworks human psyche internalized perpetual dualism emotional archetypes anchored in lunar symbolism. Science advanced in strange curved paths two moons forced mathematics forward centuries earlier mechanical computers invented to track orbits universities specialized in three-body mechanics experimental physics structured around lunar tides observation interfered by double reflected light astronomy forced to dig deeper telescopes pointed not at distant galaxies but at familiar companions every night humanity compelled to understand movements of both heavenly bodies confusion produced frustration but also genius mathematics developed rapidly calculation culture flourished precision revered engineering grew intimately tied to moon prediction science never abstract always practical survival demanded adaptation humanity learned computers earlier astronomers persisted through patterns eventually unraveling physics universal law written clearer and deeper because sky above was harsher teacher. Space exploration defined by twin goals politics split identity split nations fought to claim near moon others aimed for far moon competition fierce rivalries endless two separate Apollo moments two landmarks for humanity creating confusion and pride everything about space age double bases built on both satellites races for resources mining both companions early colonization diverged into cultures one near one far each developed unique Identities: astronauts raised flags upon two surfaces. Memory of two triumphs shaping modern world. Space colonies argued heritage: which moon shaped destiny more strongly? One built closer, integrated into Earth. Commerce: other isolated, slower, harsher environment. Far colony defined by resilience. Identity hardened by distance. Twin moons created twin civilizations orbiting Earth. Not science fiction but plausible progression shaped by doubled sky. Economy adapted again: entire industries created solely to manage tides. Coastlines engineered: entire countries invested fortune into dams, barriers, gates. Oceans unstable yet necessary. Food security dependent on managing chaotic waters. Governments collapsed when floods destroyed harvests or when protections failed. Engineers raised to leadership. Technological drive never slowed, not for comfort but survival. Two moons constant weight on human economy. Climate change: subtly axial tilt fluctuated slightly. Seasons irregular. Agriculture developed multiple cycles. Farmers learned redundancy, planted in varied times to account for uncertainty. Civilizations obsessed with resilience: fewer monocultures, broader diversity. Subsistence preserved humanity. Relentless adaptation. Climate instability normalized migrations. Constant settlement patterns. Fluid nomadic identities never disappeared. People use mobility to outrun extremes. Perhaps fewer great permanent empires, more flexible federations, more moving populations, always prepared to escape disaster. Defined by moons. The future escalates scenario: billions of years forward. Inevitable instability. Nearer body spiraling inward. Fragments building. Transient rings. Catastrophic collisions. Far companion drifting outward. Desertion of celestial sibling religions. Collapse or adapt. Poets writing laments. Philosophers reminding impermanent. Civilizations colonizing stars to escape destiny. Global cultures obsessed with lost. Trauma of eventual separation. Entire psychological framework built on memory that sky provided. Dual witness but will not forever. Humanity experiencing existential mourning for billions of years, preparing for end and diaspora. Darkness of night unusual when one lost. Future generations cannot fathom emptiness after genetic memory saturated in duality. New cultures defined by nostalgia for vanished companion. Philosophy closes loop. Existence described as impermanence. Life built under two lights ends under one or none. Human lesson: permanence illusion. Sky teaches harsh reminder. Progress art. Love always temporary. Moons gave richness but also lesson. Everything leaves nothing. Eternal grief and beauty inseparable. Civilization is built not only from stone and iron but from stories and symbols, and under two moons every story, every battle, every monument, every prayer is doubled. The sky dictates identity and identity dictates power. Empires do not simply form from rivers and trade routes but from claims to the heavens, and every crown is imagined beneath the watchful gaze of near moon and far moon. Kings proclaim descent from lunar guardians. Queens align themselves with brightness of one or mystery of the other. Entire dynasties map legitimacy to visible bodies above, yet the moons are not always in harmony, and so human power rarely is. Ancient civilizations carved myths deeper each century. Near moon seen as warrior guide, fierce and direct. Far moon worshipped as wise mother, patient and distant. Rival temples rose. Priests clashed in interpretations. People did not ask which god ruled seas or harvest. They asked which moon demanded sacrifice tonight. Calendars conflicted. Ceremonies doubled. Wars broke not only over wheat and cattle but over eclipses, one side claiming omen of favor, another proclaiming omen of doom. Civil war itself often mirrored celestial division. Just as moons appeared apart, so too did humanity stand apart. City design reflected obsession with balance. Twin towers guarding entrances. Twin statues protecting plazas. Twin flames lit in ritual before dawn. Architecture symmetric always. Builders sought in stone the order denied by sky. Streets aligned to dual rises of moons. Festivals celebrated rare conjunctions when both moons reached full. Markets tracked abundance by cycles. Merchants called themselves children of one or the other. Coins bore dual faces, one bright, one shadowed. Economy woven into stories of moons. Movement of armies consulted lunar scholars before each campaign. If near moon rose, first battle favored speed, aggression and risk. If far moon led, night armies waited, patience favored. Strategy justified by sky. Victory explained as reflection of correct lunar allegiance. Defeat punished as betrayal of cosmic balance. Soldiers believed shadows cast by dual moons could foretell wounds. Generals staged attacks during overlapping phases to claim heavenly endorsement. War never separate from sky. As human population grew under restless tides, oceans brought wealth and destruction together. Coasts fertile but fragile. Entire cities washed away. Myths written of divine punishments. Engineers became saints in flesh, raising dams, canals, and flood walls to fight elements. Civilizations invested wealth into water defenses. In failure, priests declared sin. In success, rulers declared divine right. Politics defined by ability to order chaos. Yet chaos never fully tamed. Every century floods returned. Every century myths retold. Humanity hardened but also haunted by memory of moons as both givers and takers. Philosophers wrote vast treatises on meaning of dual presence. One said 2 moons prove universe built by design of balance. Another said 2 moons prove universe is chaos disguised. Metaphysics flourished in arguments. For some, perfect harmony meant lesson of love. For others, eternal rivalry meant inevitability of war. Debates shaped legal codes. Debates shaped education. School children not simply taught numbers and letters but also principles of dual law. Right and wrong explained as lunar forces opposed yet entwined. As eras passed into iron, steel, and early modern period, the same pattern repeated. Everything under 2 moons acquired greater dual symbolism. Painters painted twins. Poets sang pairs. Musicians wrote double harmonies. Sculptures mirrored form. Scholars calculated orbits endlessly. Politics structured into dual factions. Even crime and punishment cast in lunar terms, judges proclaiming mercy or severity depending on phase of one moon or the other. Literature spoke not of singular heroes but of duos bound together by light and fate. Exploration field changed entirely. Sailors depended on stars but moons altered seas violently. Navigation dangerous. Many ships wrecked. Trade inland flourished. Still courage pushed explorers. They accepted risk of twin pull across ocean. Expeditions planned only during phases considered favorable alignments. When both moons visible, sailors claimed they sailed inside gaze of eternal witnesses. Failure blamed on jealousy between moons. Success declared outcome of rare harmony. Thus stories of discovery always bound to memory of sky. When printing and literacy spread, cultural division sharpened. Pamphlets argued which moon held truest authority. Literature of dual philosophy circulated. Scholars polarized. Near-moon schools versus far-moon schools. Arguments spilled into tavern streets parliaments. Revolutions inflamed by dual rhetoric. Politicians infused speeches with imagery. Every law debate cloaked in reference to cycles above. Citizens rallied to banners depicting crescents large or small. Constitution's preambles invoked unity under both lights. Ideological battles woven inexorably through lunar metaphors. Economic revolution shifted humanity once more. Industrial culture required power and investment. Tides unstable. Rivers unpredictable. Flood patterns chaotic. So engineers adapted and outpaced. New technology of pumps, wheels, turbines developed early. Entire industries around lunar prediction. Government funding dedicated to tide calculation. Bureaucracies filled with astronomers. Scientific institutions elevated into national pride. Industrial powerhouses rooted not only in coal mines but also in mastery of water. The identity of 19th-century state marked by infrastructural struggle against double lunar gravity. This obsession carved scar into culture. Dark romantic poets emerged not longing for solitude of one moon but meditating on endless rivalry of two. Madness blamed on dual presence. Lovers described through dual metaphors. Landscapes painted with doubled light shadows intersecting. Musicians composed symphonies swinging between two themes. Nationalism itself exploited doubled sky. Propaganda depicted near moon as symbol of progress, far moon as anchor of tradition, or reversed according to convenience. Moons became political language before microphones, before radios, before internet. They defined human thought even before humans realized symbols had enslaved them. Technology matured, electricity spread slower than in our story because nights brighter. Urbanization slower. Still, when electric age bloomed, two moons shaped psychology of modern world. Cities competed over observation towers. Architects raced to design tallest spires from which both bodies framed above skylines. Early airplanes flew under twin lights. Pilots described second moon as compass guiding course. Science fiction imagined great wars fought for control of skies where satellites belonged not to Earth alone but to heavenly twins. Global conflict arrived. Under two moons, battlefields blazed brighter. Air raids easier to see. Camouflage harder. Generals forced to change tactics. Soldiers wrote in diaries of strange beauty during nights filled with double shadows over trenches. Propaganda images depicted moon smiling upon brave or frowning upon enemy. When eclipses occurred, morale soared or collapsed. Leaders exploited events for speeches. Wars fought both on land and in minds shaped by perception of heavens. Death underscored by awareness that cosmos itself seemed witness. Space age inevitable yet fragmented. No single moon race but two simultaneous programs. Funding doubled, politics divided. Propaganda fierce. Still humanity triumphed. Flags raised on two alien surfaces. Cameras transmitted images of Earth horizon with second moon shining behind. Humanity saw itself framed by ultimate symbol of duality. Colonization complex. Near-moon settlements developed trade quickly. Far-moon bases endured hardship. Cultures diverged. One defined by constant connection with Earth. Other defined by distance, isolation, resilience. Human civilization stretched into two spirals orbiting same planet. Identity fractured further. Modern society under double moons endured endless balancing. Superstitions persisted. Astrologers still popular. Scientists revered yet often ignored. Human psyche continuously battling uncertainty. Economic planning always risked floods. International cooperation forced by need to build defenses. Technology advanced in strange jumps. Computers earlier. Medicine slower. Infrastructure stronger. Philosophy deeper. Culture heavier with symbol. Art filled with twin reflections. Children taught from birth that truth never single. Adults lived perception that no choice ever free from dual consequence. Far future unimaginable under two moons yet written in stars. Predictions proclaim doom, eventual collapse of system. People taught eventual collision. People taught eventual desertion. Knowledge heavy yet inspiring. Humanity searched for new homes. Humanity prepared exodus to planets. Space colonization not optional but destiny. Cultural memory shaped by trauma of expectation. Every story, every poem stained with thought of approaching end. Human civilization raised under dual skies matured with awareness that nothing eternal. So Part 7 reveals essence of double moons as driver of civilization itself. Not tide alone, not orbit alone, but continuous shaping of psyche, economy, politics, war, art, religion, science. Humanity itself sculpted each century by two companions. Civilizations rose, fell, adapted, adopted new forms. Nothing unchanged. Legacy of dual moons embedded permanently in every brick, every page, every song. Human story becomes story of struggle against duality. For every triumph, fragmentation. For every unity, division. For every peace, war. Eternal contradiction, living symbol above. In the new century, humanity continued to live beneath the same double sky, yet the weight of two moons pressed harder as civilization grew more dependent on science and technology. Observation improved. Prediction sharpened. The presence of two companions became not only myth and poetry but daily data. Satellites traced their paths. Supercomputers calculated resonance and drift. Children learned the twin cycles the way they learned alphabet and numbers. The moons were no longer remote, they were integrated into definition of society itself. Medical science examined influence deeper. Bright nights reduced melatonin production. Double cycles created strange sleep rhythms. Psychologists traced mood shifts not to a single lunar pull but to a complex interplay of overlapping gravities. Entire branches of medicine arose around treatment of dual circadian imbalance. Pills and therapies developed to align body with near-moon cycle or far-moon cycle. Hospitals classified patients as near-type or far-type, shaping treatments by lunar rhythm. Couples joked about mixed cycles marriages. Employers considered compatibility when hiring. Identity rooted not only in blood group or star sign but in lunar orientation. Humanity wrote biology in code of moons. Genetics too felt influence. Evolution shaped under brighter nights selected traits differently. Humans adapted to lower darkness tolerance. Pupils smaller. Eyes calibrated to consistent silver light. Night vision weaker compared to timeline of single moon Earth. Archaeologists traced cranial patterns showing impact of double lunar glow on brain development. Society accepted as natural, but scientists recognized new species grown subtle differences over tens of millennia shaped by overhead twins. Culture never abandoned symbols. Architecture mirrored orbits. Skyscrapers crowned with twin domes. Cities planned with symmetrical districts. Music festivals timed with cycles of alignment. Theatre embraced dual stages, actors performing mirrored roles. Literature obsessed with reflection. Every novel dealt in pairs. Cinema presented twin arcs. The moons refused to release imagination. Even in digital age, humanity still created through lens of double image. Technology advanced under strain of orbits. Computer science founded formally earlier because prediction necessary. Algorithms refined. Machine learning invented primarily to handle chaotic water surges and orbital irregularities. Entire field of artificial intelligence born not from abstract curiosity but necessity of two moons. Early AI programs dedicated to tidal defense. Later adapted to medicine, commerce, art. Humanity entered digital era shaped by need to manage heavens. People credited moons for birthing machine minds that guided modern age. Thus cosmic companions authored not only myths but codes behind screens. Energy infrastructure bore mark of chaos. Hydro projects dominated yet demanded constant adjustment. Nuclear programs pursued earlier as answer to unpredictability of tides. Fusion research claimed funding through rhetoric that only stable star born on Earth could outshine instability of twin lunar pools. Power grids designed resilient against disasters. Engineering culture revered not inventors of gadgets but builders of strongholds. Nations defined not by armies alone but by ability to withstand floods. Patriotism measured by ability to hold against sea shaped by moons. Politics spoke lunar language without pause. Debates framed as near faction or far faction. Campaigns filled with slogans promising harmony between companions. When eclipses occurred, politicians gave speeches of renewal. Citizens interpreted every vote as symbolic choice between bright aggressor and patient distant guardian. Entire constitutions amended to include reference to dual sky. The calendar remained complex, requiring governments to manage overlapping months. Time itself felt different, full of layers. No policy ever passed without cosmic metaphor. Space exploration accelerated under pressure. Colonization divided. The near moon filled with industrial bases supporting Earth with mining factories, solar arrays. The far moon housed research stations and communities seeking slower, isolated life. Two lunar societies emerged, gradually diverging in culture, language, and ideology. Near colonists called themselves builders of progress, impatient, bright, competitive. Far colonists prided themselves on endurance, reflection, distance. Tension rose. Trade developed but cultural rivalry persisted. Humanity repeated cycle of duality not only on Earth but in orbit around it. Psychology studied generational split. Children born and raised on near colony adapted to fast cycles of stronger tides. Far children shaped by slower, colder environment. Artists from near wrote quick, vivid works. Far artists produced contemplative, slow epics. Societies diverged more each decade. Earth watched its companions, no longer passive but inhabited by families, cultures, and politics. The moons were alive with humanity. Back on Earth, the environment endured constant strain. Climate change layered upon unstable tides. Coastal defenses stretched beyond capacity. Cities relocated. Megastructures built on stilts, islands floating artificially. Migration constant. Nations dissolved. New federations formed not by land borders but water lines. Maps redrawn every century. Humanity learned flexibility of identity. Refugee cultures normalized. Planetary politics unified gradually through necessity of survival. Global government not utopian dream but direct answer to moons and seas. Unity fragile but practical, forged by pressure of environment. Philosophers of future grappled again with dual presence. Some argued humanity forever split because of sky. Others argued sky taught most important lesson: coexistence. Debate endless. Yet recognition universal: 2 moons, no accident but teacher. Philosophy absorbed in concept of paradox, that harmony required contradiction and beauty required chaos. Thinkers proclaimed moon's ultimate metaphor of existence, visible every night, undeniable and instructive. Religions evolved further. Some faiths glorified unity over duality. Others embraced dual gods, fully rebranding traditions to worship pair equally. Pilgrimages developed to both lunar colonies. Sacred rites broadcast from surfaces of moons. Eclipses streamed globally as holy events. Theology matured, linking old doctrines with new reality, that humanity itself had conquered divine companions by stepping on them. Religion became more cosmic, blending exploration with faith. As centuries advanced, technology freed humanity more from Earth itself. Colonies on Mars established, but consciousness remained circling twin moons. They defined heritage, shaped imagination, guided migration. Even far civilizations in outer planets referenced ancestral symbolism of double guardians. Architecture on Mars mirrored twin spires. Ceremonies conducted with imitation of earthly dual nights. Humanity carried myth forward across solar system. Still instability of system haunted future. Astronomers continued dark predictions. Near body destined to touch Roche limit. Far companion drifting beyond grasp. Colonists prepared fallback. Construction of orbital habitats accelerated. Artificial moons built by engineers attempted to secure tradition of dual light if natural companions lost. Societies reluctant to surrender eternal image. Engineers promised replacement synthetic guardians shining forever above. Poets mocked. Believers resisted. Arguments intense but projects persisted. In end lesson remained permanence deception. Humanity matured under dual witnesses. Now matured further, confronting inevitable change. The greatest challenge not technological but psychological: how to accept loss when identity built entirely on image of 2. Artists mourned in advance. Religions wrote prophesies. Children taught tale of future night with only single glow. Mental health professions prepared guidance. Humanity braced for trauma centuries in advance. In far epochs, new civilizations, perhaps post-human, perhaps machine, still told legends of ancient night beneath 2 moons. They remembered songs, paintings, sculptures. They preserved architecture, twin spires. They simulated skies with satellites shining two reflections. They carved memory into existence. Even if orbits failed, memory remained. And memory shaped future just as gravity shaped tides. Thus Part 8 demonstrates society of dual moons as endless adaptation. Medicine reshaped. Technology redirected. Politics reframed. Religion renewed. Philosophy deepened. Colonies diverged, culture multiplied. Humanity not destroyed but transformed. Never free from weight of two companions. Always guided, always challenged, always divided, always united in dual fashion. Dual moons not background but framework of identity. Every street, every law, every dream contained their imprint. From the moment of first breath until the imagined end of time, humanity would never escape the vision of the dual sky. The two moons hovered above, whether in myth, in science, in war, or in silence, and they shaped not only the rhythms of seas and fields but the rhythms of minds. Part 9 carries this history forward from lived society into destiny itself. Where do people go when their entire history is written under dual gaze? What kind of future arises from civilizations defined not by one witness but two? The foundation of identity was always dual. People told stories in pairs, lived cycles in pairs, raised cities in pairs, fought wars in pairs, measured time in pairs. The human brain adapted to read reality itself through lens of dual presence. This adaptation became cultural instinct, lodged so deep it seemed natural as blood and bone. Even when humanity colonized new worlds, the symbolism followed. On Mars, people built cities with dual cores. On orbital habitats, people arranged mirrors to create two artificial moons outside windows. Colonists could not release attachment. Their psychology demanded continuation. To live under one was to feel incomplete. The dual system demanded architecture that remembered. Every skyline in future centuries contained doubled silhouettes. Towers rose in pairs. Bridges built with twin arcs. Stadiums opened to sky framed by vision of dual orbs. Memory of Earth inscribed into structures of other planets. Even on exoplanets circling distant suns, colonists recreated view artificially. Engineers launched reflectors into orbit to mimic second companion. For children born far from Earth, the story of two moons remained essential origin myth. It was not simply nostalgia. It was cultural DNA. In politics, the dual presence never allowed peace with singular choices. Political systems reflected sky above. Every election fought between dual factions. Every government designed as twin houses. Every constitution balanced opposition. Democracy itself transmuted into permanent expression of lunar model. People could not imagine politics without two. Single-party systems collapsed. Monarchies weakened. Authority always mirrored. Societies believed only balance between rivals could mirror stability of moon dance. When stability faltered, people revolted not for food or wealth alone but for betrayal of lunar order. Sky above wrote laws below. War too remained under influence. Soldiers fought less at night because brightness revealed positions. Yet warriors still carried lunar banners. Technologies of warfare infused with dual emblem. Missiles painted with paired crescents. Submarines named after dual guardians. Artificial intelligence war engines codenamed near and far. In diaries of combatants, reference is constant. Fear of flood tides, fear of eclipses shaping tactics. Ritual of soldiers before battle full of invocations. Civilization clothed destruction in imagery of double sky. Science achieved wonders forced by complexity of system. Three-body equations became foundations of advanced physics. Chaos theory developed centuries earlier, arising from necessity of tracking dual satellites. Supercomputers invented as tools for calculation. By 22nd century, humanity mastered simulations of unstable orbital dynamics and turned knowledge into new navigation for interplanetary travel. Spaceflight matured faster thanks to challenges. Interstellar missions eventually launched navigational protocols written originally to track the moons. Humanity left birthplace carrying algorithmic gift of dual system. Medicine continued to adapt. Doctors recognized dual lunar syndrome resulting in population cycles of anxiety, insomnia, and depression. Treatment global. Pharmacies delivered wave after wave of drugs keyed to specific rhythm of near or far lunar pull. Neuroscience understood entrainment of circadian systems distorted through centuries of overlapping light. People divided not only by culture but by biology aligned subconsciously to different masters above. Entire philosophy of health treatment became concept of harmonization between dual cycles. Clinics built rituals synchronizing patients through light therapy simulation of eclipses. Healing itself a reenactment of celestial pattern. Culture overflowed with continued reference. Novels never free from dual imagery. Films saturated with twin projections. Theater stages arranged in two halves, audiences seated beneath double domes. Music symphonies structured always as competing themes resolving in balance. Fine arts dominated by reflection, symmetry, mirroring multiplicity. Children's toys built as pairs. Brands marketed logos in dual crescents. Language itself adapted countless idioms. To fail called to be abandoned by one moon. To succeed meant embraced by both. Even curses saturated with lunar metaphor. Economy defined by war with water. Cities survived only through colossal defenses. Nations judged competent by their ability to master tides. Trade adapted. Coasts lost significance. Inland zones dominated. Yet water management itself became global economic engine. Companies worth trillions devoted only to lunar computation, flood barriers, tidal farms. Stock exchanges listed corporations under names of moons. Wealthy advertised allegiance to near or far. Lifestyles marketed as lunar identity. Every transaction, every financial decision tinted silver by skies overhead. Religion matured into cosmic theology. Churches proclaimed unity above duality. Still sects worshipped moons separately. Others embraced both equally. Pilgrimages organized to each lunar colony, visitors standing on alien soil reciting chants first written millennia before. Believers witnessed eclipses as holy sacraments. Religions transformed into cosmic faiths, blending exploration with spirituality. Human transcendence defined not by temples alone but by rocket launches. Cathedrals crowned with observatories. Masses celebrated under projections of lunar alignments. Mystical union became interstellar destiny. As humanity expanded further, society fractured again. Lunar colonies became permanent civilizations. Near colony flourished, quick, energetic, industrious, full of commerce. Far colony languished, patient, thoughtful, slower, yet enduring. Rivalry etched into daily dealings. Trade sometimes united and sometimes split. Cultures diverged so greatly that eventually near and far became not adjectives but nations. Earth itself refereed disputes, forever trapped between children mold in its own tidal cradle. Moons ceased to be mere rocks. They became provinces of human race. Technology matured into post-human phase. Artificial intelligence expanded. Cyborgs emerged. Genetic modification widespread. Yet still sky dictated focus. Engineers built orbital mirrors, ensuring no colony ever lost dual view. Societies refused solitude. They invented copies if natural companions drifted. They built luminous satellites shining as guardians. Simulation of permanence replaced permanence itself. Future humans accepted that only artifice could outlast decay. Religion rewrote doctrine, promising salvation through artificial moons, just as old priests once promised harvest through sacrifice. Cosmos replaced by calculation. Faith replaced by engineering. Yet sentiment remained essentially the same. Philosophical culture reached final maturity. Thinkers declared lesson of two moons to be revelation of impermanence, balance and reflection. Humanity taught through constant vision that existence never singular and never permanent. Humans accepted paradox as foundation. They built science on paradox, built politics on paradox, built identity on paradox. Dual moons carved philosophy deeper than libraries. They shaped species psychology toward resilience, acceptance and creativity. Far, far future pictures ultimate collapse. Near moon spirals inward, fragmented, scattered, forming glowing ring, raining destruction. Far moon drift outward, free of Earth orbit, gone forever, turning into separate planet of empty silence. Humanity left with single or none. In that epoch civilization transcends further. They orbit other stars. They spread to other worlds. But memory never fades. Literature memory preserved of dual guardians. Art carried symbolic code. Even advanced machine descendants store model of twin orbs in simulators. Every mind of every age carries ghost of twin sky. In every age, in every land, in every heart, the two moons were never absent. They ruled seas and seasons. They carved forests and deserts. They dictated calendars and prayers. They infiltrated dreams. They pulled upon bodies and minds. They inspired art and war. They never allowed silence of sky to fall as it would in a single moon Earth. This is the end of the story, not because mankind ends, but because mankind reaches understanding of what two moons truly meant. The first truth is biological. Humanity changed physically under the brightness. Generations adapted to nights never fully dark. Eyes evolved differently. Hormones shifted. Patterns of sleep rewrote themselves. Human bodies aligned to two rhythms. Even in interior halls of orbital stations, engineers still simulated cycles of near moon and far moon to keep health. Medicine learned not only to heal wounds but to harmonize rhythms. Every heartbeat metaphorically aligned with dual gravities. Humanity itself became hybrid organism shaped by terrestrial soil and celestial watchers. The second truth is cultural. Every city remembered them. Sculptures carved in pairs. Towers raised in twins. Every festival repeated image. Every story contained reflection of duality. No tale free of silver companions. The child who grew on desert plain. The sailor who braved chaotic seas. The soldier who looked upward before dawn. The poet who wrote beneath eclipses. All carried same imprint. Every speech, every play, every ritual memorial. Culture eternally saturated with code of two. The third truth is spiritual. Religions never escaped them. Each faith either resisted duality or embraced it. Holy days tied to alignments. Pilgrimages to colonies upon their surfaces. Eclipses worshipped. Conjunctions celebrated. Priests interpreted dual phases as texts of the divine. Monotheism matured stronger in face of dual temptation. Polytheism blossomed deeper because symbols undeniable each night. Human faith became cosmic faith. Humanity prayed upward but saw gods visible in sky. Temples faced heavens always addressing two and never one. The fourth truth is political. Empires fractured along dual allegiance. Nations claimed symbolism. Laws written to mirror dual dance. Democracies built twin houses. Monarchies displayed crowns with dual crescents. Wars fought as contests of interpretation. Treaties signed under full glow. Every major ideology colored. Revolutions fueled by eclipses. Crowds stormed palaces when moons opposed. Governments declared legitimacy during conjunction. Sky shaped power more strongly than throne. Humanity governed by orbit more than monarch. No law free from shadow of two. The fifth truth is psychological. Minds adapted. Archetypes rooted in duality. Peoples classified by near moon or far moon alignment. Artists inspired by pairings. Lovers referenced rivalry. Children raised with dual guardians described personalities as double. Justice, mercy, truth, lies all modeled as binary reflection. Psychologists studied phenomena of lunar identification. Patients confessed feeling abandoned when one obscure. Joy abounded when both shone. Madness erupted in rare nights of eclipse double dark. Mind never divorced from sky. Each dream tinted by silver presence. In late epochs humanity left Earth but never left image. Colonies decorated habitats with synthetic reflectors. Orbital mirrors stationed to guarantee dual glow. Psychology refused solitude. Even in interstellar ships' windows projected image of two moons. Memory engineered into technology. Generations born in void never saw original Earth sky yet still accustomed to dual light through artifice. Cultural DNA insisted continuation. Where biology failed, engineering supplied pattern. Humanity incapable of living beneath one. Double view essential. The sixth truth is tragic. Astronomers warned near moon would spiral inward. Over ages it did. Fragmentation formed glowing ring erupting across sky. Humanity watched with awe, terror, grief, beauty mixed with inevitability. Far moon drifted outward, deserting orbit. One night sky changed forever. Two companions gone. One destroyed. One abandoned. Civilizations mourned. Temples collapsed. Governments fell. Psychology shaken. Generations endured collective trauma. Myths turned elegiac. Songs carried lamentation. Humanity entered age of grief. But grief contained resilience. Out of trauma emerged rebirth. Humanity constructed artificial successors. Steel moons, mirrors, satellites, luminous machines built to carry tradition across millennia. Sky replaced but memory preserved. The seventh truth is cosmic. What double moons truly taught: not mechanical, not physical, not political, but philosophical. They taught impermanence. They taught duality. They taught permanence illusion. They showed humanity that beauty inseparable from danger, creation inseparable from destruction, companionship inseparable from loss. They revealed cosmos not as machine of order but theater of balance. Humanity learned to endure contradiction. Humanity embraced paradox. This lesson traveled with species across stars. More valuable than water, more valuable than fire, more valuable than knowledge of atoms was simple vision of sky where two orbs danced for eons above a fragile world. Through all epochs humanity built memory. Each song, each painting, each ritual returned to them. Museums displayed ancient carvings of twin crescents. Digital archives preserved centuries of tidal charts. Artificial intelligence stored petabytes of data from obsolete observatories. Colonists on other star systems still told stories of Earth and its two companions. In myth they grew larger than reality. They became gods again. They became archetypes not of rock but of meaning. Moons transmuted from craters into concept. In children's tales they symbolized love and rivalry. In philosophy they symbolized contradiction. In religion they symbolized unity. In politics they symbolized authority. In psychology they symbolized self. Humanity became inseparable from them in past, present and future. At the close of the story one truth remains. Two moons were not passive companions. They were co-authors of human history. Without them the seas would differ, the coasts shift, the life evolve differently, the cultures think differently. Humanity itself might not exist. The entire arc of history was conditional upon them. They shaped soil, sky, blood, dream. They wrote memory across entire species. Every human who ever lived existed inside gravity of their influence. Humanity under two moons was not accident. It was destiny. Imagine now a final vision. A far future planet colonized by human descendants. They walk beneath an alien sky of 3 moons. They carry in temples carvings of 2. They sing songs of vanished Earth. They build observatories only to project simulated dual glow at festivals. They remember origin story not as myth but as memory carried through millions of years. Even machine descendants carrying data across interstellar dark recount tale of species raised under twin lights. Legacy of humanity inseparable from legacy of moons. And so part 10 concludes epic tale not with silence but with recognition. Recognition that identity is written in sky. Recognition that human story is mirrored in heavens. Recognition that dual companions carve destiny. The eternal memory of 2 moons is greater than politics, greater than war, greater than death of bodies, greater than collapse of empires. It endures not in orbit alone but in mind. It will survive billions of years long after rocks vanish. It will survive even when Earth itself gone. It is truth eternal that humanity lived beneath two guardians and was shaped forever.